What made your mom change so suddenly? This morning she came downstairs and asked in English if we wanted pancakes. My brother nearly spit out his orange juice because she hasn't spoken a word of English to us in 16 years. When I responded in our language like she'd trained us to do since we could talk, she looked at me with empty eyes and said she didn't understand what I was saying. My brother tried asking her what was going on in our language, but she just kept shaking her head and saying, "English only in this house from now on, please." It sounded rehearsed, like she was reading from a script. Before that moment, she'd been the kind of immigrant parent who made sure we never forgot where we came from, refusing to speak English at home even though she taught it at the community college. But now she was throwing away all our books written in our native language, taking down anything with our writing on it, even the prayer banner our grandmother had made. She started pretending not to understand when Grandpa called from the old country, even though I could hear him crying through the phone, asking what he'd done wrong. She told him in English that he had the wrong number and hung up while he was still talking, then blocked his number, and every one of our relatives, too, when the lady from the cultural center came by to ask why Mom hadn't been teaching her weekend classes. Mom stood at the door and insisted she didn't know what the woman was talking about. The woman kept speaking in our language, asking if everything was okay, but Mom just smiled that strange, frozen smile and slowly closed the door in her face. Later, my brother found her in the basement burning old photo albums, pictures from the old country. When he asked what she was doing, she said she was getting rid of things that didn't matter anymore. Tears were running down her face while she watched our history turn to ash, but her expression never changed from that blank stare. She emptied the spice rack and replaced everything with plain, store-brand American seasonings. The food she made after that had no flavor, no memory in it. When I tried to play the music she used to dance to while cooking, she unplugged the speaker and said that music wasn't allowed anymore. She made us practice speaking in perfect American accents, correcting us if even a trace of our real accent slipped through. She enrolled us in extra English classes, even though we were already fluent, and made us drop out of the heritage school she'd forced us to attend every Saturday since we were 5. Then she went to the bank and legally changed her name to something plain and American. She said we should think about doing the same when we turned 18. When my brother's teacher called to say he'd written an essay in our language as an act of rebellion, Mom apologized in this cold, detached voice and promised it wouldn't happen again. That was when things started to get truly strange. Mom installed security cameras in every room, including our bedrooms. She said it was for our protection, but wouldn't say from what. She checked all the locks multiple times every night and moved her bed so it faced the door. Thick blackout curtains went up on every window, and she made us keep them closed at all times. She changed her phone number and got us new phones, warning us never to give the numbers to anyone from our community. I once overheard her on the phone speaking in English, but using strange code words that didn't make sense, things like "the package is secure" and "maintaining cover as discussed." When she noticed me listening, she immediately hung up. She started teaching us how to tell if someone was following us, made us memorize escape routes from every room, and practice packing emergency bags. She told us if she ever said the word vacation, that meant we had to leave immediately, no questions asked. She even showed us how to hide money in our shoes and clothes, and made us promise never to tell anyone our real last name. One night, I woke up and heard her crying softly in the bathroom. She was speaking in our language, but not to anyone, just whispering to herself like a prayer. She said, "They can never know what we really are, or they'll take my babies away. I'll do anything to keep them safe, even if it means erasing everything we were." When she came out and saw me standing there, she grabbed my shoulders and said in English that I must never speak our language again, because there were people listening who would hurt us if they knew who we really were. A few days later, my brother found some hidden documents in the attic. They had our pictures, but with different names, and a newspaper clipping about 3 witnesses who disappeared before testifying in a war crimes trial. When Mom walked in and saw what he was holding, her face went completely white. She whispered, "They found us again." I froze in the doorway as her hands shook so hard that the papers rattled against each other. She dropped them, grabbed both of us by the shoulders, and said, We need to pack only what fits in our emergency bags, and we need to do it right now. Her voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that feels worse than panic. My brother tried to pull away, but she held on tighter and said she was serious. We had only a few hours to get ready. I asked her what she meant by they found us and who they were. My brother's voice cracked when he demanded to know why those documents existed, why our pictures had different names, and what that newspaper clipping really meant. Mom lets go of our shoulders and sinks down onto the attic floor like her legs just gave out. She starts speaking in broken, half-finished sentences that don't quite connect, saying she used to work as a translator during the conflict back home. She says she saw terrible things she can't even describe to us because we're too young. Even though I'm 16 and my brother's 14. She translated for militia commanders who trusted her because she was educated and seemed loyal to their cause. She heard them planning attacks on villages and ordering people to be killed. And she couldn't stay silent. When international investigators came asking questions, she decided to testify against those commanders, knowing it would put her in danger forever. The other 3 witnesses who were supposed to testify before her disappeared before their trial dates. No one ever found their bodies. Mom says those men have people everywhere, even here in America, and they've been looking for her for 16 years. My brother asks why she never told us any of this before, and Mom says she thought if we didn't know, we couldn't accidentally give anything away. She thought if she erased the past completely, we could blend in. Just another ordinary American family no one would ever look at twice. My anger at her for taking away our culture starts to twist into something messy: confusion, guilt, fear. She wasn't being cruel. She was terrified. Mom gets up and says, "We need to move right now. We can talk more later, but first we have to pack." For the next 2 hours, we pull out our emergency bags and fill them with clothes and supplies. Mom double-checks every window lock, glances at her phone every few minutes, like she's waiting for a message or a warning. She moves through the house unplugging things, closing curtains, following this tense, practiced routine like she's done it 100 times in her head. While we pack, she explains why she made all those rules about English only and getting rid of our books and cultural items. It wasn't about forgetting who we were, she says, it was about making sure no one could trace us. If we spoke our language in public, someone might recognize the dialect and report back. If we kept cultural things in the house, someone might see them and make the connection. Every single thing she banned or threw away was meant to make us invisible. I start to understand that she's been living like this for 16 years, waiting every day for the moment they'd find us. My anger doesn't disappear, but it mixes with something else: pity, fear, a strange kind of love. My brother doesn't say a word while we pack. His jaw is tight, his movements sharp. Mom keeps glancing at her phone and out the windows between checking our bags. She tells us to bring clothes we can layer, protein bars, bottled water. She makes us tuck cash into our shoes and into hidden pockets she'd sewn into our jackets months ago. Everything feels too real and too terrifying. I can't quite believe this is actually happening. That night, I can't sleep. I lie awake staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak in the house. Around 2 a.m, I give up and go downstairs for water. Mom's sitting in the dark kitchen, lights off, staring at the back door like she's waiting for someone to break through it. I sit next to her without turning on any lights. For a while, neither of us says anything. Then she starts crying quietly, without sound, just tears sliding down her face. She starts speaking in our language for the first time in months, except for that one night I overheard her in the bathroom. She apologizes for taking everything away, saying she thought if she erased our past completely, we could live normal lives, safe, happy, free from fear. She says she's sorry for being weak, for not being strong enough to protect us without destroying who we were. I don't know what to say. I just put my hand over hers, and we sit there together until the sun starts to rise. The next morning, Mom calls in sick to work again, and for the first time, I understand it's not laziness. It's fear. She's terrified of routines, of being predictable, because predictable people are easy to find. She keeps us home from school, too. We spend the whole day sitting in the living room with the curtains drawn. None of us talks much. We just wait for something, though we don't know what. Mom keeps checking her phone, refreshing the security camera feeds, locking and relocking the doors. My brother sits on the couch staring into space. I try to read, but the words blur together. The house feels too small, too quiet. The air feels heavy, like the sky right before a storm. Hours pass, and nothing happens. Somehow, the silence makes everything worse than if something actually happened. My brother finally asks Mom if we'll ever get to be ourselves again, if someday, when it's safe, we can speak our language and cook our food and remember where we came from. Mom says maybe someday, if the people looking for her are caught, or dead, or stop caring. But it could be years, or never. We might have to hide forever. The thought hits me so hard I can't breathe. I go to my room before I start crying. I lie there thinking about never speaking my real language again, never eating grandma's food, never hearing the music from home. About growing up and having kids who'll never know where their family came from. 2 days pass in a blur of fear and silence. We barely talk or leave the house. Mom keeps checking her phone, running her security routines, making us practice escape routes. On the third morning, she says we're going back to school because staying home too long draws attention. She warns us to act normal, speak only English, and be completely forgettable. At school, I feel like everyone can see right through me. My friend asks if I'm okay, and I just say family stuff, pretending it's nothing. The whole day feels like I'm watching myself from outside my body, pretending to be normal while everything inside me is falling apart. I decide I need to talk to someone. During study hall, I make an appointment with the school counselor, Ms. Esme Meredith. I tell her my mom's been acting strange, throwing away our cultural things, insisting on English only. Esme listens and asks if I feel safe at home, if Mom ever hurts us. I panic, realizing if I say too much, she might call child services. So I backtrack and say it's just strict parenting, nothing serious. She studies me for a long moment, then hands me a card with her number, saying I can call anytime. I shove it deep into my pocket before heading back to class, my heart pounding. That night, while I'm doing homework, Mom's phone rings. Her face goes pale as she listens. When she hangs up, she tells us someone was asking questions about our family at her work. She doesn't say who or why, only that we need to be more careful and trust no one. We promise again to stick to the story. A normal American family with nothing special about US. My brother asks what happens if we mess up. And Mom just shakes her head. We can't mess up. That's not an option anymore. After that, the paranoia in our house spikes. It feels less like a home and more like a fortress. Mom checks every lock 3 times before bed, testing each window twice. She times us running our evacuation routes like it's a drill for survival. My brother and I keep exchanging looks, half wondering if she's losing it, half too scared to believe she might be right. I lie awake that night listening to her footsteps pacing the house long after midnight. A week passes with that same suffocating tension hanging over everything. Then one afternoon, there's a knock at the door. Mom freezes, checks the security camera, and whispers, terrified, it's Child Protective Services. She forces a bright, fake smile before letting the woman in. The caseworker says she's following up on a report from my school. She interviews us separately. Every question about food, safety, or if Mom ever hurts us makes my stomach twist. I keep my answers safe and simple. Mom's strict, but she cares. Everything's fine. My brother must say the same because after a while, the woman thanks us and says she'll check in again next month. As soon as the door closes, Mom collapses onto the couch, shaking. She explains that government involvement means records, attention, and that if we were separated, we'd be completely exposed. She begs us to act normal, to blend in, to stay invisible. Over the next few days, the pressure to be perfect and unseen feels crushing. That's when I start noticing a dark car parked near our house, different spots each day, but always close enough to watch us. When I tell Mom, her face drains of color. She grabs her phone and speaks in code, something about packages and maintaining position, then hangs up the second she sees me listening. The next morning, I'm staring at the empty curb where the car used to be when our neighbor, Mr. Jin Kang, walks over. He says he's noticed the same car too, and someone checking our mailbox while we were gone. His voice is calm, but his eyes say something else entirely. Jin offers to keep an eye out and text Mom if he sees anything strange. I thank him, grateful someone's finally paying attention. He pulls out a notepad and sketches our house, pointing out blind spots in our security cameras where someone could approach unseen. I bring the diagram to Mom, knowing it'll only feed her fear. She studies it, thanks me, and immediately starts searching how to add more cameras. That night, after she finishes her usual lock checks, I slip outside through the blind spot. The cold air hits my face as I press against the wall and peek through the kitchen window. Mom's pacing, phone to her ear, whispering about transfer windows and secure locations. My stomach drops. She's been planning for us to run. When she ends the call and turns toward the window, I duck away and sneak back inside. The next morning, my brother confronts her about Grandpa, saying it's been months with no contact. Mom says we can't reach anyone from the old country. It's too dangerous. He calls her selfish and storms out, slamming the door so hard the windows shake. After that, the silence between them grows heavy. At dinner, he speaks only in our language and Mom's jaw tightens, but she says nothing. I try to keep the peace, but inside I miss Grandpa so much it hurts. One day after school, I go to the library, make a fake email, and write to the woman from the cultural center. I say Mom's scared and needs help but leave out any names or details. After sending it, I delete everything and walk home feeling like I've started something I can't stop. 3 days later, there's another knock at the door. Mom checks the camera and goes pale. It's the CPS worker again, this time looking serious. She says there have been new reports of neglect and emotional abuse, and that she needs to interview us separately and inspect the house. Mom stays calm, but I can see her hands shaking as she lets her in. I tell the caseworker everything is fine and that Mom's just strict about school. She writes notes, clearly not convinced, and before leaving, says she's opening a case file for ongoing monitoring. The moment the door closes, Mom collapses on the couch, pale and shaking. After the car drives away, she calls my brother and me into the living room. That's when she finally tells us the truth. Back home, she worked as a translator for militia commanders during the war. She heard them planning massacres and executions, laughing about it. When international investigators came, she testified, handing over documents and recordings. 3 other witnesses disappeared before trial. Mom knew testifying would put us in danger forever, but she couldn't stay silent. Hearing that makes everything click, her fear, the secrecy, the paranoia. I feel guilty for ever resenting her. My brother looks torn, angry, but shaken. When Mom tries to touch his shoulder, he pulls away. The next day at school, I have to give a presentation. Some kids whisper about my accent. I panic and start speaking in an exaggerated American voice that sounds fake. The class goes silent, and shame burns through me. I realize I don't belong anywhere, not home, not here. After school, I use a payphone by the gas station to call a legal aid number I found online. A man named Gregory Vargas answers. He's a lawyer and journalist who investigates witness protection failures. I carefully explain without giving names or locations. Gregory listens, then tells me others like Mom have been tracked years later, militia sympathizers finding witnesses through cultural communities. He says he can help if I send documentation, but warns that exposure could make things more dangerous. I write down his encrypted email and hang up, hands shaking. Back home, while Mom showers, I sneak into the attic and find the old box of documents. My heart pounds as I photograph every page, the redacted reports, the newspaper clipping, the faint traces of our old names. Then I tuck my phone away, knowing there's no going back now. I send the photos to Gregory's encrypted email, delete everything from my phone, and clear the trash folder, terrified Mom will finish her shower early. When I put the box back and climb down from the attic, My legs feel like they'll give out. 3 days later, Mom comes downstairs with that quiet, dangerous calm. She asks if I've been in the attic. I lie and say I was just looking for old photo albums. Her voice shakes as she says curiosity could get us all killed. That night, I hear her installing a lock on the attic door. The next morning, she's wearing the key around her neck. From then on, she drills us every night, packing our go bags in under 3 minutes, memorizing escape routes, learning fake names and signatures that match the new IDs she's kept hidden for years. Seeing my face with another name makes me feel like I'm disappearing. 2 weeks later, Mom loses her job at the community college. She tries finding remote work, but everything either pays too little or requires video calls. Bills start piling up, meals get smaller, and she sounds defeated on the phone with the bank. Then my brother gets caught chatting with old friends from Heritage School in our language. Mom finds his phone, furious that he's risking everything. He yells that she's erasing who we are and says he'd rather die himself than live as a fake. The phone hits the wall, cracks, and Mom confiscates it. They don't speak for 2 days, and the silence feels heavier than the shouting. A week later, a woman with federal credentials knocks on the door. Deb Hartman, Mom's old handler from when she testified.